On this episode, we visit New York City for the 100th anniversary of the first pedestrian fatality in the United States. We also look at a report on more recent pedestrian deaths in the city. Then we head down to Austin to learn about the organization Poder and drop in on a neighborhood with dangerous intersections. Finally, we head to St. Louis, where pedestrians face challenges on Brentwood Boulevard. Stay tuned. We're in New York City talking with Harris Silver with City Streets. What is City Streets?
City Streets is pretty much a hardcore pedestrian advocacy organization. Basically, we're just doing a lot of work to raise awareness to the issue of pedestrian safety in New York City.
One of the first things you did is something you called the Stencil Project. What was that?
Yes, I created this idea. I came up with this idea to raise awareness to pedestrian safety in New York City by painting full-size police chalk outlines at the site of fatal crashes. And right now there's groups doing this in San Francisco, Atlanta, Amsterdam, Vancouver, and as well as New York. And I'd really just like to thank everyone who's been involved in this project. We've never really thought it would just become so big or really affect so many people. It was featured on CNN, on CBS Eye on People, and now on now on this show, which is just awesome. So, we really think it's important, and it seems to. And if you want to get involved with it, please contact us, and we'll do whatever we can to. We'll supply you with stencils, we'll supply you with paint, we'll show you how to do it. And if you think you need it in your city, just go to our website and look at it and contact us, and we'll help you get it going in your city.
And your website, your URL is?
Yes, it's new. It's www.citystreets.org, and I just hope you have a fast internet connection, because there's a lot of interesting broadcast and interactive photographs and stuff like that on the site. There's right now a half a gig of traffic information. If you think you're stuck in traffic now, wait until it gets into your head.
And just this last week, September 13th, was the 100th anniversary of an event. What happened 100 years ago?
Well, 100 years ago, a man named Henry Bliss, right actually at this corner at 74th and Central Park West, stepped off a trolley and was killed by a speeding vehicle. Most New Yorkers would not be surprised to learn that the vehicle was a cab, but most people would be surprised to learn that the vehicle was an electric vehicle. It was before the domination of the internal combustion engine. And Mr. Bliss was struck fairly hard. His head was crushed. His brains were pretty much splattered all over the place, even though he lay in a coma until the next morning when he died. And when he died, he became the first recorded pedestrian fatality in America, and not just America, but the Western Hemisphere. And it's impossible to articulate how much work it was, but we got permission from the city of New York to put up a sign to commemorate the event, and the sign is actually right here at the site. Sign's been produced, and it was a huge event. There were over 200 people at the event, over 50 television stations, and we got coverage from CNN covered it, New York One covered it, a lot of TV stations. We don't even know yet. There were TV stations here from Korea. We don't even know really how far this message has gone out, but it was really, we think, an important historical event, and we're really happy to sort of get the fire rolling on it and be a part of it and make sure that it really was focused on the issue of pedestrian safety.
So you had pedestrians getting struck and killed for 100 years. What needs to be done to reduce the toll?
Well, we believe that really pedestrian safety is where the drunk driving movement was in the 70s. And you recall in the 1970s, people just accepted the fact that you drink and drove, and now not only is that no longer acceptable, it's considered a serious crime. And we think pedestrian safety is really where the drunk driving issue was back then. We think it's a very solvable problem. It's not just a matter of pointing fingers. We think the first step in the problem, in the solution, is to recognize the problem. And for instance, New York City, we have an organization called the DOT, which stands for the Department of Transportation. And their number one priority, if you ask them, they will tell you that their number one priority is to facilitate the movement of automobiles in New York City. And we think the number one priority of any organization, any government body that deals with the movement of traffic on city streets should be the safety of the people that are on the streets first. On our website, we have a section called Solutions, where we have, and they're all set in PDF formats, and it's you could download them, and it's a whole series of very innovative transportation solutions that they're available really nowhere else because we thought of them. They're pretty much, most of them are original ideas that we came up with, and that we're putting them out there, and we really hope that some of the ideas are implemented, if not in New York City, and other cities around the country or even around the world.
We're in New York City talking with Charlie Kamenoff, who's with a group called Right of Way. What is Right of Way?
We're a pedestrian rights organization, and we're grassroots, we're activists, we're militant, and we're trying to get people to think about the rights of human beings vis-a-vis the prerogatives that are granted to drivers.
And what's the general situation for pedestrians like here in the city?
Well, the good thing about New York is that it's potentially a wonderful walking city. The city, it's dense, it's compact, and it's a pretty terrible place for driving a car. And so most New Yorkers use walking as their main or a subsidiary means of transport. What's shocking is that even in a great or potentially great pedestrian city like New York, drivers get the vast majority of space, the vast majority of the privileges, the vast majority of cultural cachet that empowers them to trample, figuratively and literally, pedestrians and pedestrians' rights.
One of the projects Right of Way has undertaken has been something you call street memorials. What are those?
These are life-size body outlines in a kind of police chalk style of a fallen figure that we spray paint into the pavement at the place where the pedestrian has been killed, with the name of the victim, the date, and the words "killed by automobile." And we've created about 250 of these street memorials throughout the city of New York in the past 3 years.
What was the reaction to these street memorials that your group drew?
Well, there's two levels. First, when we are creating the memorials, when we're actually painting them on the street. Now, we're a bit furtive about doing this because this is an illegal activity, so we kind of have to do it quickly and then rush off on our bicycles to the next site that we're going to paint. But while we're painting it, during those few minutes, inevitably a crowd gathers, support for what we're doing is expressed, and in many cases, somebody passing by will know about that crash. They will have seen it, they will have heard about it, they will have known the person, and that certainly creates a resonance among us for what we're doing. There's a real connection that we seem to be expressing through these street memorials that gets across to people while we're creating them. And then in the long-term level, well, these memorials last for several months at least before they fade. And it seems that most people that we talk to about our work have seen these memorials. They're familiar with them. In fact, they've become a kind of subtext in the whole discussion of pedestrian safety and pedestrian rights in New York City. And so we would like to think, with some basis, that the more recent decline in pedestrian fatalities in New York City in '98 as compared to the 4 prior years has, in part, stems from the greater awareness of killing by automobile and the way that that has then been expressed or reflected in the beginnings of initiatives by city officials to crack down on the most egregious violations of pedestrian rights by drivers.
Something you've done a little more recently, you did a major report, killed by automobile. What was the idea behind that report?
To document and distill and analyze and interpret the circumstances in which some 250 pedestrians are killed each year in the city of New York. And using a Freedom of Information process, we were able to obtain the police accident reports for virtually all of the 1,000 pedestrian fatalities in New York City during the 4-year period 1994 through 1997. And our report is far and away the most detailed and careful and revealing statistical analysis of such a large number of pedestrian fatalities. I think that's been done anywhere ever in this country.
And what did you find out when you put all this information together? What did you discover?
Well, there are two levels of findings. First, on a kind of gross statistical level, findings such as the majority of automobile victims in the city of New York are pedestrians as compared to drivers or passengers, that the elderly are most victimized. In fact, during the 4-year period we studied, people 65 and over were more than twice as likely to be killed by an automobile as to be murdered in a homicide. But perhaps even more revealing was the cause analysis of just how is it that pedestrians are being killed on the streets of New York City. And we found first that in the vast majority of pedestrian fatalities, the driver is at fault to at least some extent. And in fact, in a majority of cases, a large majority, the driver is either largely or solely at fault. And this goes against the conventional view that it's the pedestrian who's putting herself in harm's way. Second, that drunken driving is an extremely small part of what is killing pedestrians. Only a few % of pedestrian fatalities in New York City involve drunken driving, and the vast majority involve aggressive, reckless, and heedless driving with modes such as turning into pedestrian and crosswalk, speeding, red light running, even driving onto the sidewalk or backing up into a pedestrian. All of those modes are more common than DWI in killing pedestrians here.
So what's the implication of the report then? As public policy makers, what can they learn from this?
What they should learn is first that drunken driving is, as far as pedestrians are concerned, only a small subset of a larger category of dangerous and aggressive driving that is killing and maiming pedestrians on the streets of the city. And second, that even in addition to enforcement and reforming the criminal justice system so that drivers will at least understand before the fact that they can't aim at and kill pedestrians with impunity, it's the sheer volume of automotive traffic in the city of New York that underlies the killing of pedestrians here. So we need not just enforcement, but we need transportation and traffic reform that's going to sharply reduce the number of automobiles being driven on the streets of New York.
We're in Austin, Texas, talking with Raul Alvarez with PODER. What is PODER?
PODER stands for People Organized in Defense of Earth and Her Resources. It's an environmental justice organization based in East Austin, and we've done a lot of work on transportation issues through our Transportation and Quality of Life campaign.
and you're actually the transportation coordinator for them. What sort of issues have you been looking at in terms of transportation?
Well, we, through our campaign, go through a neighborhood planning process where we identify the needs of particular neighborhoods and, assist, the residents with addressing the concerns that are addressed through the neighborhood planning process. And so we identify things such as this, the Airport and Boehm intersection, which presents a very dangerous situation for anyone who uses it, for pedestrians and drivers and cyclists alike. So these are the kind of things we like to address, and this particular situation is especially bad because it is a thoroughfare to the airport, and so there's a lot of traffic. I was on the mayor's mobility task force, and this was one of the corridors that we said needed a lot of work in terms of making it safer for for everyone, drivers and pedestrians and cyclists. And so Airport and Boehm is very bad, but there are a lot of intersections along this corridor, like Springdale and Boehm Road, Oak Springs, and Airport Boulevard, and 12th Street and Airport. A lot of intersections that need help, and so we've been focusing particularly on this intersection because of the problem it presents, and we have petitioned the city to do something about it in this budget cycle, and the jury's still out on that. But we did get over 150 people sending in letters in support of addressing the problems in this particular intersection. So we hope that something good comes out of all of that.
Yeah. How are things set up here in Austin for public participation and public input? Where do you fit into the process?
Well, that's where Poder comes in, because the transportation process is very complicated. You have a great many agencies that do transportation work, and there's no really mechanisms in place to coordinate between agencies. So we identify the problems, and a lot of times we have to figure out which agency can take care of the problems. So we end up having to talk to 4 or 5 different agencies, and having to continually bring up the issue and make sure that it doesn't get thrown by the wayside. And so sometimes we get help from the Transit Authority. Here it's Capital Metro. We get help from the city or our Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is the capital area MPO. And we also deal with the state as well, Texas Department of Transportation and the roadways that they have jurisdiction over. So it's very complex, and we assist folks in identifying the problems and also figuring out who they can go to in order to take care of or address these issues.
We're in Austin, Texas, talking with Janie Rangel with the Gardens Neighborhood Association. What is this intersection behind us?
This is Airport and Boehm Road intersection, and it's, I guess you could call it suicide lane, but that's exactly what it is. It's so congested, it's difficult to walk across. You can't even drive across without fearing for your life. And it's been like that for years, and now with the new international airport, Berkshire International Airport, that just opened up in May, it has increased the traffic, which makes it even more dangerous now than before. And so it's been a couple of years now, maybe longer, that the Gardens Neighborhood Association has been working with, well, they're trying to get the city, the Texas Department of Transportation, or somebody to do something about the intersection. We've had a couple of fatalities already, and we've had a lot of accidents, a lot of injuries, people that have actually been thrown out of their cars, seatbelts and all, out on the street because of the impact, just the traffic. Seems like every day I live right behind where I'm at. My street is right behind this, and I'm steady calling 911 every time I hear an accident. I can tell if it's a serious accident, if it's just a little fender bender. I can tell now. I can tell the difference. And when I feel like it's something major, right away I'm on 911. You need an ambulance, need the police, like right away. I don't know who it is, but send them out here anyway. And like I said, we need some help. We need something to be done about this. We need an engineer to come out here and redo this whole intersection, because what they've done here, like I said, is just a disservice to the neighborhood. We ourselves cannot even go across the street, which is right here, right across the street, without having to, like I said before, fear for our life. The traffic is just chaos out here. And this goes on 24/7 with never any rest. There's a lot of signs that say no trucks, and you can steady see the trucks coming out of the intersections. The police have a substation down the street on Springdale Road. The police, they're always coming down the streets, but they never enforce the laws. And the laws do need to be enforced, but they're not. And in the meantime, the traffic keeps coming, the fatalities, the injuries. Like I said, it's just terrible. So that's what this intersection is up here, suicide.
For pedestrians, are there facilities for pedestrians at this intersection? What sort of special problems do they face?
Okay, we have several bus stops over here, but what it is, the bus stop, it's a stick with a sign that tells you what bus number it is, what bus sign, but they don't have any platform whatsoever. They stand in a ditch, basically to wait for the bus. And right beside me is the Goodwill Industries with handicapped persons that I have witnessed that come out here in their wheelchairs. They have a little sidewalk, but once they come off the sidewalk, there's not any curb, nothing for them to get off of, no handicap ramps or nothing. And as you can see over here, this traffic is what they have to deal with also. If they don't already have enough of a handicap, and then with all this traffic here, but they have to get to work. That's the only means of transportation for some. And like I said, I mean, there's, the Capital Metro, which is supposed to be responsible for this, like I said, the money's there. They've got like millions and billions of dollars, and I'm sure that they could fix them. But for what, for what reason? They don't want to do anything because it's on the east side. East side has always suffered environmental injustice, and this is one major injustice that has been done to us. And so, we've got the bus stops, but people are afraid to catch the buses up here.
We're in Richmond Heights, Missouri, talking with Deb Chanisu, who's chair of the Richmond Heights Transportation Board. What is the board?
The board is an advisory board made up of different citizens in each of our regions, appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council. And we look at all the transportation issues and everything that impacts that, and then make advisory kind of decisions and pass those on to the city manager and then the council for their approval, depending upon what we think is most current and how it's going to impact our citizens. We sort of analyze everything about traffic flow into, through, out of the city, as well as how our pedestrians get around, how commerce grows, and just everything that impacts the transportation issue.
So now, where are we standing right now?
Right now we're standing on Brentwood Boulevard. It's Richmond Heights is surrounded by major arterials as well as divided by major interstate highways. And so this is one of our major arterials called Brentwood Boulevard. It's in front of our the Galleria, which is one of our, if not the major area of commerce and growth in like the past 5 or 6 years in Richmond Heights.
Now, what are some of the challenges facing pedestrians around here, and how's that going to change with the new development?
The challenges that face our pedestrians, as you can see by looking at the streetscape itself, one is that there's no easy access to crossing this major boulevard. This is an arterial that's at major capacity in terms of number of cars on it, so we already have difficulty in terms of just the vehicular transportation on it. And there are no islands, there are no safety areas. The traffic lights all have left turn lights as well as the north-south traffic flow. So it's extremely difficult to get across, to gain access on either side.
So what sort of process would the board go through to look at these issues and make recommendations?
The process that the board goes through is fairly extensive because of new developments. When all of these roads were originally built, when the highway was originally built, when a lot of the building, we're left with a lot of old infrastructure and old building stock as well as home stock. And we don't have the option of expanding because the land that we have is all used. So we're a locked-in sort of community, and given the land that we have, we now know from studies that are done that we have a lot more knowledge about what works and what doesn't work than we did 40, 50 years ago when this was all built. So the board has a lot of, number one, education for themselves to do in terms of studies. An example would be zone of influence. You know, the zone of influence for a road like this, most people think just involves this road and whatever's on the right or left side of that road. And we now know that the zone of influence in a community can extend for miles, depending upon the traffic flow and the speed of that traffic. So it's that kind of knowledge based on studies that we have to educate ourselves to. Then once we get beyond that process, then we need to meet with all the parties involved. And that would be county roads, Missouri Department of Transportation, the city commerce, Chamber of Commerce, the school district, school board, local parishes and other kind of areas, civic leaders that are involved. And we need to sit down at a table and talk with them about what their goals are for this particular region, what the goals are for the development, as well as those people that say represent pedestrians, which we mainly do, or handicap, disability kind of issues, and then the commerce and, you know, what the people in the gallery, etc. So after we sit down at a table and we talk to all those people, then we come back and we regroup ourselves and we try and find cohesion among all the groups, points that are common among all of us, so that when we meet again, we set up a time when we can meet again to kind of look at and again go over what we think will work based on comparisons in other cities, what works well in other places and what hasn't, so that we're really not reinventing the wheel, but we're saying this is a bad idea, whatnot. And one of the big major stumbling blocks has been that many times the citizens, after all this process, then we bring in the citizens and we try and involve the community to get the community input and get as much input from as many citizens as we possibly can, because after all, this is their neighborhood. When we do that, there's a tendency among people, we find, to feel that they should leave these things up to the experts. You know, well, the county roads people will know what to do with the roads, and Missouri Department of Transportation will know what to do with the highway, and the gallery and the commerce people will know what's best for that. And what we're trying to get people to see is that this is our backyard. There are studies done in other states. We can kind of look at those for comparison, see what works and what didn't work for them. And then we as citizens in this region, this is our backyard, we can kind of decide, you'll know what's best for your backyard.
Visit us on the internet at www.pedestrians.org.